What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody? This is Jeff Fannell, Sports360. You know, it's been a good minute since we've had one of these quick takes, but there have been some things in the last several days that have happened in the world of sports that I believe is worth taking a closer look at. And one of those things concerns Magic Johnson, the former Laker, a Laker great, Laker icon, who on yesterday, May 20th, took to the airwaves and essentially aired out the Lakers' dirty laundry. According to some people, he threw Lakers officials under the bus. Magic Johnson went on First Take, and he essentially talked about the dysfunction in the Laker organization, and he named names, Rob Pelinka, Tim Harris, and others. And in doing so, he incurred the wrath and the ire of certain people who thought it was inappropriate for him to be so blunt in his comments. For me, I don't know whether what Magic Johnson had to say yesterday was true, false, or somewhere in between. And quite frankly, I really don't care. But I do give him credit for at least being honest enough and man enough to come forward and to name names, to not hide behind hints or suggestions or innuendo or ask someone else to fill in his blanks. He had a gripe, he had grievances, and he felt the need to air them publicly, and in doing so, he was explicit and he didn't leave anything to chance or to interpretation. And I give him credit for that because we still live in a world where too many people are politically correct, too many people try to be cryptic, too many people try to be clever, and they don't come right out and say what they believe, but rather they beat around the bush and leave it to other people to figure out what they mean. At least Magic Johnson didn't do that, and for that I give him credit. But I will say this. I think there are two recent incidents with Magic Johnson that I believe he could have done better, and they don't look good on him. And the first was his resignation a few weeks ago. Magic Johnson, when he resigned, did not tell his ownership, did not inform Jeannie Buss. He did not call LeBron James and give him a heads up, and LeBron James is his prized free agent. He simply, Magic Johnson did, held an impromptu press conference before one of the Lakers' last games of the season, and he announced that he was quitting via a press conference. Who does that? That would be like an employee, instead of informing his or her boss that he or she is resigning, simply goes on Instagram and posts a picture holding up a handwritten note that says, "I'm out." You just don't do that in the workplace. And it doesn't matter if you're Magic Johnson or Joe Johnson or Joe Bag of Donuts. You just simply don't do that. And yet that's what Magic did. And then, having resigned in such a fashion, he now goes to the airwaves and airs out his grievances and pulls back the sheets on the Lakers' dysfunction. And for me, the problem with what Magic did on yesterday was the timing, because he did it on the day when the Lakers were announcing the hiring of Frank Vogel as their new head coach, on a day when the Lakers are looking forward, on a day when the Lakers are trying to sell hope to their fan base. Magic Johnson essentially hijacks the day with these provocative comments, whether they're true or not, comments that he knew or had to know would overshadow what the Lakers were attempting to do in moving forward with a new coach. That's where I have a problem with what Magic did on yesterday. But in the end, look, he did what he did. He said what he said. Here's my hope, that we don't hear from Magic Johnson or the Lakers about any of this stuff anymore. Rob Pelinka came out yesterday and said he wasn't a backstabber, because that's what Magic called him. He called him a backstabber. And Pelinka says, oh, we worked great together and all the rest of it. Now, both of those guys can't be telling the truth. But as I said earlier, who really cares? They need to work that out or not. But hopefully we've heard the last of this. And hopefully Magic Johnson will make some better choices going forward, because these last two decisions regarding his resignation and then his public airing of his gripes simply don't look good on him. Speaking of not looking good, that has to describe my New York Mets. I am a Mets fan. And quite frankly, as a Mets fan, you have to add a prefix to that, long-suffering Mets fan. And that's certainly what I am. And it has been a disappointing season so far. And yesterday came the news that Yoenis Cespedes, the star outfielder for the Mets, who hasn't played much over the last 2 years and hasn't played at all this year as he recovers from surgery on his heels, we now hear that he has suffered another injury, this time on his ranch, where in a fall, he fractured his ankle or his ankles, depending on which story you read. We don't know the details, as it remains a mystery, but here's what we do know. The New York Mets are a mess. And Cespedes, their star outfielder who they depend on for run production, is out again. Only to the New York Mets. Season after season, we begin with hope. Season after season, we talk about our pitching. We add a few hitters here and there. And injuries seem to hit all the time, whether it's the pitching staff or position players. And Cespedes has been front and center on the injury list over the last 3 years. And now who knows when he's going to return. But as a long-suffering Mets fan, it's almost business as usual. And yet, because we come into each season with hope, it still is disappointing. And we just have to shake our heads and find misery in company. Company in misery, however they say it. Because right now, that's exactly where the Mets and Mets fans are. Suffering in misery in another season that seems to be going in the wrong direction. And speaking of going in the wrong direction, Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not sure if he's going in the wrong direction, but the signs don't look good. There's a recent report out there that at a music festival in Las Vegas, Ezekiel Elliott was handcuffed by the cops after pushing a security guard to the ground. And according to the reports, Ezekiel was arguing with his girlfriend, and security at the festival intervened. And during the intervention, Ezekiel gave the security guard a forearm push that knocked the security guard to the ground. That part is somewhat troubling, but the more troubling part, for me at least, is the part of the story of Ezekiel arguing with his girlfriend publicly, such that others felt the need, security felt the need to intervene. Recall that Ezekiel Elliott a couple of seasons ago was suspended by the NFL for domestic violence, for a reported physical altercation with another girlfriend, a former girlfriend. And now, less than 2 years later, or about 2 years later, to hear that he's in another altercation with a girlfriend. And again, there was no indication that he put his hands on her. But again, a public argument that rises to the level where security felt the need to intervene. It just raises some issues and some concerns for Cowboys fans, for football fans, quite frankly, for human beings who simply don't want to see this type of thing going on, especially with a young man like Ezekiel Elliott. But here's the thing about Zeke. Trouble seems to follow him around. And as I said, I'm a Cowboys fan, but I have to be honest. Trouble seems to follow this young man around. And that has to be concerning for the Cowboys organization, for the NFL. But hopefully, it's of significant enough concern for Ezekiel Elliott that he will make some changes and do the best that he can to stop making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Lastly, I want to talk about Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka just won the PGA Championship this past weekend, nearly squandered a 7-shot lead in the process, but he held on, and he's now holding back-to-back PGA Championships, and I believe he has back-to-back U.S. Opens right now as well. And he certainly is one of the bright young golfers out there. But there's something going on in the media that I think we need to talk about, and that is there are reports out there that are saying that Brooks is the next Tiger Woods. He's the next Jack Nicklaus. He's likely to win double-digit majors. He has 4 right now. And he certainly has the talent to do so. And I like Brooks. I mean, you know, he seems like a quality young man. And I also like the fact that, you know, Brooks looked like he can take you behind the shed and put something on you if he wanted to. I mean, this is a guy who is in really good shape. And again, he just seems like a quality person, and he certainly is a top-notch golfer. But I would just say to the media, pump the brakes on all this talk about he's the next Tiger or he's the next Jack or he's the one who's going to get double-digit major championships. He has the ability, no question about it. But give him time and let's see how it plays out. Because, see, it wasn't that long ago that we had another young golfer who had taken the stage by storm, who was being anointed as the next one. And we haven't seen much of him lately. And the golfer I'm talking about is Jordan Spieth. Where has he been? But yet when he came on the scene and won championships, a couple of championships in a row and all the rest of that, we were told that he was the next one. But we haven't heard much of him lately. Quite frankly, I think it's unfair to these golfers. I think it's unfair to athletes generally when we don't allow them to simply do what they do and allow what they do to speak for itself. But instead, we have to get out in front and anoint them as the next one, the next Tiger, the next Jack, the next Michael Jordan, the next LeBron James. Let's pump the brakes and let's enjoy the excellence that unfolds before us. We don't have to get into all this conjecture and predictions about what certain athletes are going to do. Why don't we just enjoy the ride? I enjoy watching Brooks play golf. I'm wishing him success as he goes forward. And I just want to enjoy it as long as it lasts. And if he ends up surpassing Tiger in major championships and surpassing Jack in major championships, or even just coming close, it will be a ride worth seeing. Listen, that's it for me. I'm getting on up out of this joint. I'll see you real soon. Next time, Sports 360.